Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Wednesday the 18th of September 2024. Right, here we go again, back on the Bonneville, and a little later than planned, but that's because we've been waiting for some more parts. So to cut a long story short, with respect to the original seat, we've got a new old stock cover for it, but the pan's not in good condition. So we took the decision to get a new one because we found that some suppliers allegedly had them in stock. Well, the first place we ordered one from didn't contact us for a little while, but when I chased it up and rang them, they said unfortunately that they were out of stock and their supplier stroke manufacturer didn't want to manufacture anymore because there was low demand for them. Anyway, found another supplier in Europe that had one in stock, a UK one, and it arrived yesterday. So we'll open that up shortly. So that's the seat. And then after the last video, there are a few comments about one or two things that I'd overlooked quite rightly. The first thing is that with respect to the wires going into the ignition switch down here, they should be, there we go, they should be covered by a rubber boot, which is absolutely correct. So they've arrived. I've got a spare one for myself because there's something I might need it for. So we've got that. We've got more cable ties, which is good. And then Rick, sorry, I was just wondering what that was, and I've just realised what it is now. It's all the fittings for the top of the tri-spark coils. And then Rick, as helpful as ever, said that he'd noticed that we'd fitted the forks sort of flush with the top yoke, and really they should protrude a little so that the clock brackets, if you like, are secured down onto the top of the forks. Well, sorry, the top of the stanchions. Now, as you can see, these brackets have got a lip around them that isn't very deep, and that's also the case for the top yoke, except for possibly that side is a little shallow, and so it is, and it is there too. So Rick's probably right, but at the stage we're at now, these stanchions I know were a tight fit in the yokes, especially the bottom yoke, and I'd have to strip probably the whole of the front end really to try and raise them a little. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to put a fibre washer underneath the clock bracket. And the reason for that is then the fibre washer will help to stop the brackets sort of spinning slightly, which sometimes they have a tendency to do. So a bit of a workaround really, but we've got enough thread on the cap nuts to do that. And these don't need to be, you know, humongously tight anyway, and shouldn't be. I mean, they do have a metal washer on the top side of the clock bracket anyway. And I thought about, I've got some spares of those. I thought about putting them on the underside, but then I thought fibre washer would be better, compress down a little bit, and as I say, just hold the clock a bit better. So that's what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do then is, now we've got all the parts, is crack on with the completion list. Now, in the last episode of this, I was working through the completion list in the order that I've written it down. But actually, I'm going to change my mind on this. As you can see, we've added a few things at the end with respect to parts that we needed to order. But I'm actually going to adjust the tappets and button up the rocker box covers first, because I don't particularly enjoy that job. So let's get it out of the way. So that's what we'll do first. And that's why the rocker covers at the moment aren't screwed down, is because just to remind me that I need to do the tappets. Now, looking these up online, the factory clearances are opposite to what you'd expect. Actually, it's 8 thou inlet and 6 thou exhaust. So let's get on with that first, and then we'll get on with some of the other jobs too. But let's get on a roll here, because we're not that far away, and hopefully today, as I say, is Wednesday. Hopefully this week we'll get it all in one piece, now that everything's arrived. Hurrah! Tappet's done, and tappet covers on and tightened up. It'd be nice when we get all the cabling done up here, so we can strap all this up neatly, and that'll be one of the jobs we'll do shortly. I think we've mentioned that before. Look, that's an insert there. A bit proud, but yeah, we mentioned that before. Anyway, it's no good commenting on what the tappet clearances were. They were all over the place. Some tight stroke nothing to some loose, but then we've had a head and everything off, so there's no reference point. Right, let's go and cross that off the list. And then I think the next job, before we here we go, and get rid of that when I find a pen. Pen's gone missing. Then we can cross that one off. What I'm going to do next, probably, is before we put everything back together on the top end here, which isn't going to take long, we'll use this opportunity to route some cables. So we'll get the choke and the throttle cables on, and also we'll get the clutch cable on. So let's do that now. Now, what we need to do is put the clutch cable and the throttle cables, I believe, go through a grommet which we've got, which goes on this side, and keep that neat and tidy. So I've got grommets here somewhere. There they are. I've got a spare one, but there we go. So we'll make sure we'll route them through that and it'll look all neat and tidy. Right, enough waffling. Let's get on with that. Right, the carb tops are off, ready to install the throttle and choke cables. But also just checked out the clutch cable, and found at the bottom here the rubber on this was wrong, and wouldn't have sealed that at all. And in fact, the end of the cable showed evidence of water getting in there at some point. So I've got one of these in stock, one of the rubbers, so that's fine. But if I show you the rubber that was on it, I mean, firstly, it's perishing anyway, so it wanted changing at that end, but that's totally wrong at the other end, because it should go over the main adjustment nut. At the bottom here, there's a lip on there, so it should go over that and hide all this, the fine adjustment. So that's that done. Right, let's start sorting out throttle cables. Got the twist grip apart already. The cables are over here, so that's not going to be a problem. And they're in, from what I've seen, they're in pretty good nick. What we've got to determine probably is the correct routing for the choke cable, because the chokes are 1 into 2, and the choke lever is mounted down here, and I think it just goes all the way in behind all this lot, and then back on itself to the carbs, loops over the top, which would wouldn't make sense if we brought it out here. So in under there, I'll do a bit of looking up on that. I mean, there's a lot to feed in. And I'm sure the lever goes that way around rather than, yeah, otherwise the cable would go forward onto the cylinder head, which we don't want. I'll ponder on that one. The throttle cables are easier because we've got a dual cable twist grip, so there's no junction box required. Just got to feed those into the slides. Right. All right. Well, this might be fun. Okay, making some good progress. So all the cables are in the tops of the carbs, and we've routed the cables. So the throttle cables, and on the other side the clutch cable, now routed under the frame out through the grommet. Looks good. So throttle feels and sounds lovely. Clutch, where's the, need to adjust the lever a bit, put it closer to the switches, but that's all right. Clutch doesn't feel too bad. But what I have found, I've got the choke cables on, and I'm routing that around. I've got the lever in bits at the moment, but the choke cable comes in here, out the tops. Now, I'm not sure if these are the right length of cable, because they look to me as though the cables are the ones to suit a choke lever on the handlebars, which could be done. But this hasn't got that, so I'm routing it how it was routed when we took it apart, and that is out the tops of the carbs, backwards, and then loop round behind and in that way, and therefore we get a nice smooth run. I'm pretty sure, Rick, you'll probably comment that that's not how they originally were, or probably were, but not that long. But anyway, we'll try and route it nice and cleanly. But what I have found is that in doing a sort of a preliminary routing of that, the cables are as stiff as hell, and what I've found taking this lot apart is, look, there's rust on there. So I don't think the choke was operational anyway, because it was just gunged up. So what we'll do is we'll obviously start oiling that up, which I'm starting to do. Especially the junction box and the single cable. The two into the carbs seem to be okay and relatively new. We'll get all those oiled up and leave them to soak. And what we'll do in the meantime then is we'll put all this front end back together and finish that off. And also, I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned it in an earlier clip, but we'll check the connections on the ignition switch here, because I think I've already said this. Rick kindly commented again that the light switch should be operational without the ignition on, so therefore we need to make sure that the appropriate connectors are on the same side of the switch. So I've looked at the wiring diagram, etc. Online, and that's correct. So basically the equivalent of the white one needs to be on one side and the other two on the other side. Now I might have already done that, but I just need to refer back to my little mapping table because I had to extend the wires. So basically the white one on the harness, which I've extended with a green brown, that needs to be on its TOD. So maybe we'll check that first. But also we've got, anyway, to take them off because we've got the rubber boot to put on. So let's do that lot first. Sometime later, well, it's even more apart than it was. I had to get the ignition switch out. I'd got it wired up correctly, but obviously I had to take the wires off to get the rubber boot on. And I just could not get this rubber boot on. And just looking at the switch again, realised that this switch has broken in the past and been repaired. And instead of the terminal backplate there being riveted on here, it was held on by a couple of lumpy set screws and a nut. So I couldn't get the boot over it. So really that switch is knackered. I haven't got, well, I haven't got rivets the right size to replace it. I've got pot riveter, but as you can see there, it's broken. So Greg, I'm going to order a new one, I think. And also what I've found as well is I've been looking in all the electrical stuff for some right-handed spades, and I haven't got any. And that's because with this setup, even though they're kosher spades, they're bit too long in the boot. Although actually, you know, they might be all right. I'll order up a few right angle spades anyway as a backup, just in case once the new ignition switch is here. We need to fit those instead of those straights there. So basically, we get a nice right angle out of the back of the switch to mimic this. Otherwise, the depth of that really is a bit too tight. I think I could probably do it with a bit of force once we get the right switch. I mean, I could try and find some BA bolts, etc., but I would rather not. Let's just do it. Let's do it properly. So this has got a number on it somewhere. There we go. We'll look at one of those online. So that's the one step back. 2 steps forward is I think I've got all the cabling done, including the choke. And oh dear, I did. Now you can see the cable sticking slightly, but it's up the top here. So I think it's to do probably with the piston there, but it's well oiled up. So I think I just need to work it a bit. See, it's not working properly. It is getting smoother. There's tons of oil in the cable and in the 2-into-1 piston. So it is working. And I'm trying to route it so that we haven't got too tight corners. A bit of a tight corner there, but I want to eventually just pin these over here, and I think that'll be a pretty neat solution then, with the 2-into-1 sitting in that spare hole there, because we didn't need a cable hole. Right, so that's done. So we can actually tidy this lot up on the main spine. We could even sit the tank on it, really, just to keep the tank out of the way. And we'll have a look at the seat as well, which is here. I need to get that out of the box because it came a couple of days ago, and we need to make sure that it is all right. Right, cup of tea first though. Right, I've saved a bit of money, and we can use the same keys, because I've managed to get the the key barrel out of the switch body. You do that by pressing or putting a probe through that hole there onto, there it is, that pin at the bottom there, and pressing that in, and the lock will come out. Obviously you can only do that when the key is in and you put it to the on position. So that means what we'll get then is just, if you like, an ignition casing, which will comprise those parts, and sorry, it's that way around, and the gubbins in the centre, so that'll include the actual what do you call that? Just thinking now. Anyway, this goes in on the back of the barrel. So this then twists the spring-loaded connector there onto the two pins on the back of the wire connections, and so it's just a simple on-off switch. So yeah, sorry, I'm thinking as I go along there. Anyway, I know how to put it back together. So let's get the skeleton switch body ordered up, and then we'll build that up when it arrives. But that's going to be another few days delay. There you go, just for completeness, this is how it goes together. So you've got this, the black spindle that pushes on to the back of the key barrel. So the black spindle turns, and it in turn turns this brass connector on the end here, which is on flats, and it's spring loaded, so it makes a good contact onto the backing plate behind it. And obviously this backing plate then is under a bit of pressure from that connector and spring behind it. At some point this is broken, the Bakelite is broken, and that's why they've done that repair. But it means it causes all sorts of issues then with actually the switch mounting, which we did struggle with as well as the rubber boot mounting as well, and it might be a problem in the future. So anyway, enough of that. There's a replacement basic switch on order. While we're back focused on the front end, in addition to identifying the issue with the ignition switch, then I was thinking about what else we could crack on with. So I thought about the fork cap, fork top nuts, etc. So as those of you that have been following this, we bought another one, which is allegedly an LF Harris one, to replace a new cast one that fractured its head off because it's made out of probably a type of Mazak aluminium. Awful anyway. So anyway, we got another one from a reputable supplier, and this one is obviously well, it looks to me turned from solid. Anyway, started screwing this in, first couple of turns going in nicely, and then it sort of bound up a little bit. Took it out, cleaned it up, went a little bit further, bound up again, even tighter, and I thought there's something wrong with this. Anyway, the threads look the right, you know, TPI and form, but if you look ever so closely at this, you can see lots of little areas. I'm sure you can just pick that up across the threads, where it looks like you know, when they're cutting these, it's either shattered or picked up, and so it's left little tiny hooks and bits and pieces. Now I obviously haven't got a die that big to run down that, and I've tried cleaning it up, but it's just no good. And the last thing I want to do is well, I've been trying to, you know, turn it in gently, turn it backwards and forwards, and trying to go a bit further at a time, as though you would, you know, like you would do with a tap or a die. Plenty of fluid and stuff, and it just won't have it. And there's no way I want to end up with this being stuck in the top of the stanchions, or indeed damaging the stanchion thread, although this is aluminium and we're going into steel. So I've found a used one in very good condition, so I've ordered that, because this is absolutely no good at all. So today we've probably gone 2 steps forward and 2 back, but we've still got things we can get on with. So the next thing I want to do probably then is to tidy up the top end, get some cable ties on there, and then we might set the tank on there just to try and give ourselves a bit of motivation. Oh, choke still occasionally sticking. So annoying. Okay, we're off, but we need it to be reliable. I might just open up the junction box again and put some grease in there. Okay, that's the top runner cables tidied up quite a bit, getting on. So I've used the aluminium metal wraps, but as you can see, I put a bit of shrink wrap on the underside just to protect the cables and the wiring harness a little. Done a bit more buttoning up this side. Had to mess around a bit underneath here to get various breather clamps and that out of the way, so they didn't scratch the chain guard. They did catch it a little bit. That's the choke cable there, but it will go inside when we finish messing about with it. There we go, inside the side panel, so it looks a lot neater. So anyway, it's chain guards on, fully tightened up now, as are the shocks, because we left them loose while we're messing about. I've taken out the new seat, looks good. So the tank needs a good polish and clean up, and maybe a little bit of touching up, but very tempting. Although the front end around the headlight's a bit of a mess at the moment, tempting just to put the tank and seat on, just to see how he looks. Yeah, why not? Give me 2 minutes. There you go. I've got to put the rubber buffers and the hinges on the seat yet, but it's roughly in the right position. It's the right seat, and the tank's just resting on at the moment, but it's on its rubber cushions, so that's in roughly the right position. So ignore the front end there. Right, getting near completion. As you can see, I've got the little timing cover off, ready for installing the electronic ignition. But we're working through the list, so we'll call it a day for this one, because I've done quite a lot of clips on this, and we're waiting for parts now. So we're going to go into next week. It's Friday. What date is it? Friday the 20th now. So we're going to go into next week. Got a couple of events on this weekend, but we're waiting for parts anyway. So just a quick review of the checklist. Pen at the ready. We haven't done electronic edition yet. We've done a test fit of the new seat, but we won't take that off yet. I've checked all the fitments at the back end and done the top shock mount, so that's done. I haven't done tyre pressures yet. That will last. Fit battery and check electrics, not yet. Number plate, done that. We need to give it a polish. Control cables and choke lever, done that. We've had to reorder the fork top nut, and we haven't replaced the handlebar and clocks yet. So anyway, we crossed a couple off after all that work. Oh dear, we're getting there. Right, I'll leave it there. I'm rambling on. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks for your comments, interest, and any subscriptions. And see you all again soon. And if you're at Cadwell Park, well, by the time I publish this last weekend, might have bumped into you for the 90th birthday celebrations on there tomorrow on the 21st. Cheers, everybody. Bye.